Recording in progress.
We started with the movement in and out of the cell, and in this we were discussing the diffusion process. Basically, what is diffusion? Simply, we say that where there are more particles, from that region, the particles will leave that region and they will try to accommodate that region where there are the low concentration of particles is there. So simply, the movement of particles from an area of higher concentration towards the area of lower concentration. And how it happens? We discussed, for example, at one point, at this corner, if we say there is more concentration of particles. Gas particles, they randomly move in different directions, okay? So when they will move in different directions, so what will happen? They will collide with each other, right? And in the result of this collision, what will happen? They will move in different directions, okay? They will move in different directions. So there will also be some other particles with which they will collide, and in this way, in this collision way, all the particles will spread out and they will be equally placed within the room, okay, within the room. So this is what we were discussing, diffusion. And if someone asks you that what is the time period for diffusion, that like when diffusion will complete, so what should we answer when diffusion is completed?
When diffusion is completed, like it's all equal.
Yeah, when there is equilibrium, okay, when all the particles are equally spaced in the room, okay, equally spaced in the room. Just like if you have sprayed a room freshener in this corner of the room, but after 5 minutes you will feel the smell of, you will smell the fragrance within the whole room, okay. Why is this so? Because due to the diffusion, the particles from the higher concentration are leaving and they are spreading out, okay. So diffusion is simply the movement of particles from the area of their higher concentration toward the area of their lower concentration,
Low.
right? Yes, the movement, and this movement is quite random. You know why this is quite random? Because gas particles, they move in random direction, okay. The gas particles always move in random direction, and they have mentioned that the particles will collide more often where they are more, okay. In this region, in this region their concentration is more, concentration is very high. So what will happen when concentration is high? So they will collide with each other, right? And due to this collision, they
Yeah.
will spread out, okay, within the whole room. They will spread out in whole room, and due to this spreading, they will be homogenized, and this process will continue until an equilibrium is maintained, okay. And then we studied about the concentration gradient. What is concentration gradient?
Concentration gradient is like it shows what's it called? Like on which part is
Hmm.
what's it called?
Gradient,
Which
what is
parts
gradient?
are
In mathematics, what is gradient? That is rise over run, right?
run?
Rise means, simply you can consider rise mean more concentration. The area where concentration is more, this one is the rise for us, and this one is run. Okay, this whole room is run
Yes.
basically. So this is known as gradient. Gradient means you have different ratios. At one point you have more concentration, and on the other end of the room you have low concentration. That is known as gradient. Okay. For
Mhm.
diffusion process, gradient is necessary. Otherwise, diffusion will not happen. Okay. Otherwise, if in the whole room the particles are present equally at different positions, so there will be no diffusion. Okay, there is no need of diffusion. Diffusion is needed when there is concentration gradient. Okay, this is very important point. That what is the most important thing for diffusion to happen? That is gradient. There should be gradient in the room. Gradient means at one point there should be more particles, and on the other end there should be low concentration of the particles. That is known as gradient. And in this gradient, the diffusion happens. Otherwise, if in whole room all the particles are equally placed, then diffusion will not happen. Okay, that's why after, when you spray something after 5 or 10 minutes, diffusion stops. Okay, diffusion stops after 5 to 10 minutes. Why? Why it stops
Mhm. Uh,
after 5 or 10 minutes? Why it
ma-
will stop?
because like it's already spread it in the room.
Because yeah, they are equally placed in the room. That's why diffusion will be stopped. Okay, if all the particles are equally placed, then it means there is no gradient. Okay, And when there is no gradient, there is no diffusion. The diffusion will only happen when there is a gradient available. Okay. So this is known as
Mm-hmm.
concentration gradient, which means at one point there is high concentration, okay, and on the other end there is low concentration. So, so the particles will start move from the higher concentration toward the lower concentration, right? And they will spread out in the whole room. Are you clear with this?
Yeah.
And this is known as the net movement. What is meant by net movement? Net movement means, for example, in this picture they have shown that on the left hand side there are proteins, glucose, and water. Okay. For example, we can consider that on this side initially there were 50 molecules of water. Okay, and on this side there were 20 molecules of water. So what will happen? The water molecules will start move from right to left, right? They will start move from
Yeah.
right to left. After some time they will be 40, it will increase to 30, right? Then it will be 30, not 30, you can have 35, then this will also be 35, okay? So this is known as the net movement. The net movement means on both sides the particles will become equal, okay? This is known as the net movement of the particles. Clear? Are you clear with this
Yeah.
example? Okay,
Yes.
then simple, they have mentioned in the second point that this is the movement from the region of higher concentration toward the region of lower concentration, right? So you need a concentration gradient. And until when this will happen? Until the equilibrium is reached. Okay. After that, this process will not continue. The diffusion will not
Mm-hmm.
continue. Then we discussed about the partially permeable membranes. And you know what are the partially permeable membranes? Which allow only,
Few substance.
yes, not all substances can pass through. Partially means partial, like half. And permeable means,
Yes.
permeability means to allow substances, okay? So
Allow.
few substances can pass, yeah. And why few substances, why there are few substances which cannot pass? They have mentioned three reasons. The first thing is that particle may be too big, okay? That's why it cannot cross the cell membrane, right? Second thing is
Yeah.
that particle have wrong electrical charge, okay? That's why the particle is not allowed to enter the cell, okay? Cell, it cannot cross the cell membrane. Third thing is the chemical composition of the particle is changed. For example, uh, you know the cell membrane. In the cell membrane, there are lipids present. There are proteins present. That is, the cell membrane is made up of lipid bilayer. Okay, it is made up of lipid bilayer. Cell membrane. So
Mm-hmm.
if there is something coming towards cell membrane which is not of lipid nature, so that thing cannot pass. Okay, just like a polar thing. Okay, if a polar substance want to cross the cell membrane, that substance cannot pass through the cell membrane. Why? Because the cell membrane is made up of lipid. This is what they have mentioned, that sometimes chemical composition is changed. The chemical composition of the substance is changed. That's why it cannot cross the cell membrane. Okay. These are the three
Mm-hmm.
reasons they have mentioned that why few substances cannot pass. First thing is that substance may be too big. That's why it cannot pass. Maybe it has a wrong charge, or maybe its chemical composition is changed. Okay, that's why it cannot cross the membrane. Okay, the diagram below shows a partially permeable membrane. It's permeable to glucose and water, but impermeable to protein. You see this one, this cell membrane. They are saying that this protein molecule cannot pass this membrane. Why? Why it cannot pass?
Mm-hmm.
Why it cannot pass?
Because
Hmm?
uh,
Hmm.
like it's proteins cannot pass because it's like too big to
Yeah,
go
it is
through.
too big. You see, there are small pores. It cannot pass. So this is one of the
Yeah.
reasons they have mentioned. It is too big. That's why it cannot pass. But glucose and water can pass because they are smaller in size, and that's why they can easily cross. They can easily diffuse. This is known as diffusion. You know, there are more particles of water and glucose. There are more molecules on this side. On the left side, there are less particles. So they can easily move from right to left. Clear? Okay. The next is, are you clear till this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, then we have done the diffusion and life process. I am giving you this short recap because we were doing on the mobile phone, so that's why I am giving you this recap again. That if you have any confusion, so that will be clear. Okay. The last thing is this. which we discussed, that was about the adaptation. Okay, to speed up a chemical reaction. Okay, if you want to speed up a chemical reaction, right? If you want to speed up a chemical reaction, speed up the diffusion process, not chemical reaction. So what adaptations are needed? First thing is the distance should be short. Okay, if the distance will be short, what will happen? Diffusion will happen at a rapid rate, right? For example, there are this is high concentration area and this is the region where low concentration. So easily the particles can come at this place, okay? Because the distance is
Yes.
short. But if distance is long, then diffusion will take time, okay? If you want that your diffusion should occur at a higher speed, then what is needed? A shorter distance is needed, okay? Then
Mm-hmm.
second thing is about the concentration gradient. You know, I have explained this that without concentration gradient, diffusion cannot occur. Okay, there should be two points. At one point there should be high concentration, and at the other point there should be low concentration. Okay, so concentration gradient should be maintained. If there is no concentration gradient, then diffusion will not occur. Okay, clear? Are you clear till this?
Yes.
Then third thing is diffusion surfaces are large. Diffusion surfaces are large. These, if you have large surface, then diffusion will occur at a rapid rate. This I gave you the example of, like you have a large gate, and from that you can transmit different things. Or like I gave you the example of, like if you give more dollars, more charity to a person, then you know, if you, I told you the example, like you can give a person $5 or you can give a person $50, which can improve his life situation for that one particular day. Giving $5 or $50. Hmm. If there is a person, if there is a needy person, and you want to give him, if you want to help him, so what is much more significant, to give $5 or to give $50? Yeah. So similar is the case that if like you are giving more, so it is improving his situation. Similarly, if you want more diffusion, you need more surface area, high surface area. Increased surface area will provide more region, okay, more surface for the diffusion to occur. Just like I gave you the example of placenta in the mother womb, okay, the pregnant woman, they have in the fetus, you know how fetus is the baby inside the mother womb. So how it the food is transferred to the fetus by the placenta. Okay, this placenta, and this placenta has a very high surface area. Okay, so this high surface area will help to increase the diffusion rate. Okay, clear?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Okay.